Welcome back to the channel. My name is Douglas, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the effects on the Nord Stage 3. Now, the way the effects work on the Nord Stage 3 is a little bit different between the compressor and the reverb and the rest of the effects. So we'll talk about that as we go through these. But what I first want to point out is that over on the right-hand side of the keyboard, we have the main effects section. And then over on the left-hand side, we have the rotary speaker effect. They put this over here because for the most part, it relates to the organ section. So it makes sense to have that right there for your Leslie effect, your slow fast. Being able to hit that right there is a lot more convenient than having to reach over and hit it on the right-hand side of the keyboard. So starting off on the main effects section, we have effect 1, effect 2, delay, amp simulation, EQ, compressor, reverb, and then of course the rotary speaker effect. Now you'll notice that effect 1, 2, delay, and amp sim EQ have a dark gray background. And you'll notice they also have a source button down here at the bottom. The compressor and the reverb only have on-off buttons, and then the rotary speaker effect does have a source button as well. So the way that works is the effects with a source button, including the rotary speaker, can be applied to only one section per panel. So on each panel, and keep in mind that panels A and B are basically two separate copies of the Nord Stage 3. So on panel A, you could assign effect 1 to the synth engine. And then on panel B, you could assign effect 1 to the organ. So per panel, you can assign the effects with a source button to one section at a time. And then for the compressor and the reverb, those apply to the entire panel. You'll notice they don't have a source, they only have an on-off. So it's either on for the whole panel or off for the whole panel. The one last thing to keep in mind there is if you're using the rotary speaker effect, the input going into the rotary speaker effect does have the reverb applied to it. And let's say that you've got a rotary speaker on panel A and a rotary speaker on panel B. The way that Nord has this set up is that the reverb is going to be taken from panel A and routed through both rotary speaker effects. So that being said, let's explore some of the effects on the Nord Stage 3. I'm going to take just the normal white grand. And then let's go ahead and assign effect 1 to our piano section. To turn it on, we just tap on the on-off button, and you'll notice that the light underneath piano is lit up. We could change that by holding shift and tapping on the source to change whether effect 1 is routed to the organ, piano, or synth section. So now that we're on the piano, this is on. And right now it's on auto pan. We've got 6 different effects within effect slot 1. We have auto pan, tremolo, ring modulation, wah-wah, auto wah-wah 1, and auto wah-wah 2. So we can cycle through these. Now auto pan is really cool because you can bring the amount and the rate down and you get this really cool like stereo pan effect. I'll use this when I'm building layers. I'll put the auto pan on the synth sound, and then you get a little bit of movement between your left and your right with that synth sound. Gives it a little movement. I like that. We have tremolo. The ring modulation. Now, obviously, these don't really sound great on the piano, but a piano is a really good way to see what effect these are adding to that sound. Now, the rate knob, in the case of the wah-wahs, is controlling the wah-wah that you'd normally have with a pedal. You can plug an expression pedal into the back of the Nord Stage 3, program that to effectively control that wah effect. Again, not as effective using the knob because I have to actually play the notes. But if I was using this on an organ or a synth, let's change the effect routing to the organ section. There you go. It's going to be better if you attach that to an expression pedal, and then you're going to get that wah effect that you can just use your foot for and actually play. Maybe with your clavs or electric pianos, that's going to sound pretty sweet. Let's go back and turn the piano section on. So those are the effects in slot 1. I'm going to turn that off by tapping the on-off button. Let's turn on effect slot 2. And in here we have 2 different phasers, a flanger, a vibe, and 2 chorus effects. Let's walk through those. Again, we can use the rate and the amount. Phaser 2. Kind of an interesting effect there. Chorus. And we could also apply more than one effect slot to the same section. So have all 4 of these slots all applying to the piano section, and we could use all of those effects in one section. Let's turn both of those off, and let's talk about delay here. So we can, again, turn delay on by pressing on the on-off button. You'll see that it's already applied to piano, but again, if I needed to switch that, I could hold Shift and tap that button. Let's go back to the grand piano here, white grand. Now with the delay, there's not presets necessarily. We have our dry wet knob, our feedback, our tempo, and then the ability to tap the tempo of the delay. Or we could change that using the knob here. And then we can hold Shift and we could turn ping pong on by tapping on that same button. And what ping pong does is it gives us that same delay, but it alternates between the left and the right side. We also have 3 different filter modes. There's also an analog mode with the delay, which gives a little bit more variation, just similar to more analog delay. Gives some variation to that delay sound, especially when the tempos change. Not something you'd use in every situation, but again, you get the idea. So down in the dry wet, this is our level of delay that we have here. And then the feedback is the number of delays that we have. So 10, it's going to keep going for a while. So mess around with the settings on this delay. If you're familiar with delays, you'll be able to kind of get these settings set right up for you. But if not, and just mess around until you get the delay sound that you're looking for. Let's turn that off and let's turn the amp sim EQ on. So I use this a lot with the piano live to pull a little of the bass and bring in a little bit of the treble. So this is a 3-band EQ with an amp simulation model. There's 3 different amps, small, JC, and twin. Those are off right now, and you can see that my source is actually on synth. So I want to bring that over to piano. Could bring the drive up. And we could change the amp model, so the twin. We have we have the LP24 and the HP24 as well. I'm gonna bring that off. So now the amps are off and we could tweak our 3-band EQ. On the mid, we can actually choose which frequency this mid is set to. Really nice for pinpointing maybe that muddy characteristic that you want to pull out, or a little bit of warmth that you want to inject. And then the bass. I find with the piano that a lot of times I have to pull just a little bit of bass out, bring a little treble in, and that works really nice for live use. Sits really well within the mix. And then over here on the very right-hand side, we have the compressor and the reverb. Again, these apply to the entire panel, so there is no source button. We have the on, compressor is going to bring the quiet parts of the sound and make them louder, and it's going to squash the really loud parts to try to keep the sound in a little bit more of a consistent range. You can get kind of a squashy effect because it's cutting and limiting that top, or not necessarily limiting, but it's compressing that down. If I turn that off, you'll notice that I have a lot more volume there, but when I get into the soft, turn that on, so as you can see, maxed out, it's pretty squashy, but it definitely evens out the range. And then we can hold shift and we can turn fast on, which is going to bring the compressor back faster and give a bit more of that squashy type effect. So that's the compressor, and then the reverb is something that I use all the time. We have 6 different reverb settings here. Stage 1, Stage 2, Hall 1, Hall 2, Room 1, Room 2, and then we can hold shift and we can tap on this button to turn bright on. You can tell just a little bit of that difference. The reverb's a little brighter there. And then we have our dry wet knob. So this is how much reverb is injected into the sound. I usually keep this between 3.5 and 4.5, depending on which song we're playing when I'm playing live at church. And I use the stage 1 for the most part on the reverb setting. So again, the effect slots with the dark background are applied to a specific source, and then the compressor and the reverb are applied to the whole panel. Over here on the rotary speaker effect, just to talk about that real quick, let's turn the organ on. Let's turn the piano off. And then let's turn the rotary speaker on. So again, without that, sounds much better with that rotary speaker. And we could apply that to any of the other sections as well. And then we can also control the drive from here. So there you go. Those are the effects on the Nord Stage 3. I hope you found that helpful. If you've got any questions, throw those down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you found it helpful. Thanks for watching. Stay inspired and keep making that music.